Okay, get ready for this one, because today we're diving into a world that might surprise you. Online sports betting in the UAE.
Oh, yeah.
And you might be thinking, wait, isn't gambling illegal there? And you'd be right.
Right.
In paper, at least.
Uh-huh.
But the reality is much more interesting.
For sure.
We got a stack of sources here. Everything from guides on how to safely access betting sites to rankings of the top bookmakers designed for people living in the UAE.
Interesting.
So how does all of this work? Let's find out.
It is fascinating how this industry operates in a legal gray area.
Yeah.
The UAE's legal framework, which is rooted in Islamic law,
Right.
prohibits gambling in every way.
Uh-huh.
Yet the demand is clearly there.
That's what I think is so interesting about it.
Yeah.
Several of our sources, like ArabianBetting.com, highlight these legal restrictions.
Right.
But then we have sources like Best UAE Betting Sites 2025, showcasing a whole ecosystem of betting platforms and sites designed for Emirati users.
Yeah.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
It is. And it says a lot about the power of technology and the global nature of the internet.
Yeah.
Emirati bettors are clearly finding ways around these restrictions.
And VPNs seem to be their secret weapon.
Absolutely.
Right.
These virtual private networks allow users to mask their location and make it look as if they're browsing from a country where online gambling is allowed.
Wow.
Like creating a digital tunnel to bypass those geographic barriers. And a lot of sources, including Best Online Betting Sites 2025 Arabic Bet Guide, specifically recommend VPN services like ExpressVPN and NordVPN for UAE bettors.
So it's like this high-stakes game of hide-and-seek with digital borders instead of physical ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, but VPNs are just one part of it, right? What about the financial side of things? I imagine discrete payment methods are pretty important too.
Spot on. Imagine trying to explain a suspicious transaction on your bank statement if gambling's technically illegal.
Right.
That's where anonymous payment options come in.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are Emirati bettors actually using? Like, what are the specifics?
Well, a lot of our sources mention several different options. Pay Safecard, for instance, is a really popular choice. It's a prepaid voucher system.
Okay.
So there's no direct link to your bank account.
Oh, I see.
Then you've got e-wallets like Skrill and Neteller, which act as intermediaries, shielding your bank from the betting site.
Right. And then, of course, we can't forget about cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Bitcoin especially is made for anonymity, and it seems like it's gaining a lot of traction in this space.
Exactly. Best Online Betting Sites 2025 Arabic Bet Guide even points out that many UAE-facing bookmakers are accepting Bitcoin now just to cater to this demand for discretion.
Wow.
However, it's important to remember that crypto's volatility can add another layer of risk
Of course.
to betting.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like this high-tech balancing act, using these tools to access a world that's technically off limits.
Yeah.
But let's actually talk about the betting itself. What are people actually wagering on? What are they putting money down on?
Football, unsurprisingly, reigns supreme. The Premier League, La Liga.
Right.
These are the big leagues that are super popular betting options.
Right.
But it's not just about the international leagues.
Right?
Best Online Betting Sites in the Middle East and North Africa highlights that a lot of these Arabian sports books
Okay.
offer betting on Middle Eastern and North African football matches, too.
So there's this element of local pride woven in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, of course, we can't forget horse racing
Oh, of course.
with the UAE's equestrian tradition.
Right.
It's no surprise that this is a major betting draw.
For sure.
UAE Betting Sites, top online bookmakers in United Arab Emirates, emphasizes that with the Dubai World Cup being the world's richest horse race,
Wow.
betting on local and international races is a year-round thing.
It sounds like these platforms have opened up this whole universe of betting opportunities,
Yeah.
even in a place with strict regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other sports are popular? Like, what else are people into?
Cricket's huge,
Yeah.
especially among expats from the Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
Then you've got tennis,
Right.
Formula One,
Right.
even basketball. Pretty much anything you can think of.
Yeah.
Someone in the UAE is probably placing a bet on it.
That's wild. It's incredible how this demand has fueled this whole industry that's operating underneath the surface.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But let's shift our focus to the bookmakers themselves.
Okay.
Like, what are the top sites for UAE bettors?
Right.
And what makes them stand out?
That's where our sources get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We've got lists and rankings galore. Best betting sites in the United Arab Emirates, for instance, lists the top 26 bookmakers operating in this space.
Wow, it's a lot.
Names like 1xBet, BetFinal, 888 Sport, and Rabona
Yeah.
pop up a lot. And what makes a top site is actually very similar to what we'd look for anywhere else.
You mean like security,
Yeah,
a wide variety of betting markets,
exactly.
competitive odds,
Uh-huh.
user-friendly interfaces, reliable customer support.
You got it.
Okay.
But in the UAE, there are a few more
Okay.
rather crucial considerations.
Like what? Tell me more.
Well, discretion is paramount.
Right.
Emirati bettors need to feel confident that their activity is staying private.
Yeah, sure.
So a bookmaker's reputation for data security and user anonymity becomes a huge selling point.
So how do these top sites make sure that level of discretion is there? Like, are there specific features or policies that they're offering?
Absolutely. Some platforms accept cryptocurrency deposits for enhanced anonymity. Others are what you would call VPN friendly,
Okay.
meaning they don't flag or block users who are masking their location.
Interesting.
It's like they've built in these extra layers of protection
Right.
to operate within this environment.
Like they become masters of navigating this digital maze.
Exactly.
What else should we be looking for when we're checking out these UAE-focused bookmakers?
Payment options that are tailored to the region are essential. Best online betting sites in the Middle East and North Africa stresses the importance of anonymous payment methods like PaySafe card,
Right.
disposable credit cards, and e-wallets like Skrill and Neteller.
Okay.
Essentially anything that reduces the risk of traceable transactions.
So it's not just about finding a site that has your favorite sport.
Right.
It's about finding one that aligns with your need for discretion and security.
Precisely.
Okay.
And then there's customer support. Imagine having a problem with your account,
Uh-huh.
but you're hesitant to contact customer service because you're worried about giving away your location.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a catch-22.
That would be incredibly frustrating.
So the top sites go above and beyond
Yeah.
to make sure there's discreet and reliable customer service.
Okay, so what are they actually doing?
We see sources highlighting 24/7 availability, multilingual support, including Arabic, of course,
Yeah.
and even contact options that don't require revealing your location,
Oh, okay.
like email or online forms.
Got it.
They've adapted their services to address these specific concerns.
It's amazing how these bookmakers have tailored their platforms to the specific needs of Emirati bettors.
Uh-huh.
It really does say a lot about this market's potential despite the legal hurdles.
It does. And it brings us back to that question of potential legalization.
Yeah.
If the demand is so obvious and the infrastructure is already in place,
Right.
could we see the UAE actually shift its stance?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
But before we jump ahead, let's take a closer look at some of these individual bookmakers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like 1xBet, for instance, seems to be a popular choice.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about them? Like, what's the deal with 1xBet?
1xBet has this really solid reputation for offering a huge range of betting options.
Okay.
Best betting sites in the United Arab Emirates, UAE, highlights their impressive coverage of over 45 sports.
Wow.
From super mainstream to more niche stuff.
Okay.
They also have a reputation for offering really competitive odds, which is a big draw
Okay.
for bettors who know what they're doing.
So we've got the range covered.
Right.
What about payment methods? We know that's super important to Emirati bettors.
1xBet seems to have that covered as well. They accept a bunch of payment methods that are popular in the UAE, including PayPal,
Right.
Skrill, Neteller,
Okay.
and even cryptocurrency options.
They've got it all. It sounds like they're really checking off all the boxes
They are.
for what makes a top site
Uh-huh.
in the UAE.
Yeah.
What about Rabona? We see them pop up quite a bit in the sources, too.
Rabona is another strong contender,
Okay.
particularly for those who are new to online betting.
Okay.
Like 1xBet, they offer a lot of different sports markets,
Uh-huh.
covering major and minor leagues across more than 30 sports.
Ah.
But they really stand out because their platform is really easy to use,
Okay.
which can be a big plus for
Yeah.
people who might feel overwhelmed
Right.
by more complex platforms.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. User friendliness is always good,
Right.
especially in a space that can be overwhelming for
Yeah,
newcomers.
for sure.
What about bonuses or promotions? Like, do they offer anything to entice new users?
They do.
Okay.
They've got perks for both new and existing users, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
Best betting sites in the United Arab Emirates, UAE, points out Rabona's generous welcome bonus,
Okay.
a 100% bonus up to $100.
Okay.
Pretty standard for the industry. What's noteworthy is that they specifically mention that this bonus is available to UAE players.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of suggests that they're really targeting this market.
It's interesting how they're adjusting their marketing to
Yeah,
appeal to this specific audience.
for sure.
All right, let's move on to another popular choice, 888 Sport. What sets them apart? What's their thing?
888 Sport's a giant
Yeah,
in the online gambling world.
right.
They've got a long-standing reputation for security and reliability, which is super important in a field where trust is everything.
Yeah.
And according to which brands are accessible for betting in the UAE,
Uh-huh.
they're a top choice for users because they offer a ton of betting options
Okay.
across over 25 sports,
That's a lot.
to be precise.
Wow, so they've got the experience and the range of betting markets covered. What about licensing and regulation? That's something I always pay attention to
That's a great
when
point.
I'm looking at online gambling sites.
And 888 Sport checks that box, too.
Okay.
They hold licenses from big institutions like the UK Gambling Commission,
Wow.
which means they operate under these really strict regulations that are meant to protect players.
Okay, that definitely makes me feel better,
Yeah,
especially when we're dealing with a site that's operating in a complex place like the UAE.
for sure.
All right, let's finish up our look at these bookmakers with LVBE.
Okay.
What are they known for?
LVBET has become the go-to platform for
Wow.
cricket betting. In fact, which brands are accessible for betting in the UAE actually calls them the best cricket betting app
Wow.
in the UAE.
Makes sense given how popular cricket is in the region.
Exactly.
But do they offer other sports as well? Like, are they just cricket or is there more?
They do. While cricket might be their specialty,
Uh-huh.
they actually cover over 45 sports total.
That's a lot.
So they've got options for pretty much any sports fan.
Right.
They also get good reviews for their generous bonuses and their support for secure payment options.
Feels like they really understand what the UAE betting market wants.
They do, and I think that's something we see with all of these top bookmakers.
Yeah.
Willingness to adapt and innovate to
Yeah.
handle the unique challenges and opportunities of this region.
It's a really interesting look at how the online gambling industry is changing to meet different needs and deal with complex laws.
Yeah.
It really is. And we've covered so much already, from the legal issues and how people are getting around these restrictions to the popular sports and the top bookmakers.
Yeah.
But there's still so much more to explore.
For sure.
We haven't even talked about online casinos and mobile betting apps yet.
You're right. We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah. And then there's that big question, could the UAE actually become a major player in online gambling?
Yeah. Could.
That's something I want to dive into.
For sure.
So stay tuned as we keep exploring this hidden world.
Absolutely. It's amazing how these UAE betting sites offer this complete gambling experience, you know?
Yeah.
Even with all the legal stuff.
Yeah, it's wild.
We're not just talking about sports betting here.
That's right. Our sources are saying these platforms are getting into casino games too.
Yeah.
Like best online betting sites in the Middle East and North Africa.
Mm.
Even has a whole section on Arabian casinos.
It seems like people in the UAE want more than just sports betting.
Yeah.
You know, slots, roulette, blackjack, poker. They've got it all.
It's all there. And that brings us to another interesting thing, the rise of live dealer games.
Oh.
Live dealer games, I've heard of those.
Yeah.
They're like a mix of online and real-life gambling, right?
That's it. Instead of playing against a computer,
Okay.
you actually interact with a human dealer
wow.
in real time through
Yeah.
video.
So cool.
It adds that social element and a bit of authenticity
Uh-huh.
that a lot of players really enjoy.
I can see how that would be appealing to people who miss going to a real casino,
Oh, yeah, totally.
especially with the restrictions in the UAE.
It lets them have that casino experience.
Right.
But from home.
Right from their couch.
Yeah.
So comfortable. And speaking of privacy, we have to talk about these mobile-friendly platforms.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Smartphones are everywhere now.
Everywhere.
And mobile apps give you a level of privacy and convenience you just can't beat.
You got it. You can place a bet
All
or
right.
play a casino game
Right.
anywhere, anytime,
Wow.
without anyone knowing.
That's so cool. A lot of our sources point out the top betting apps in the UAE.
Yeah.
Names like 1xBet,
Uh-huh.
Bet365. Yeah. And 10bets come up all the time.
It's incredible how technology's changing online gambling,
It is.
especially in places with strict rules.
Yeah.
It's like they've made this whole virtual world where
Well,
these things can exist.
Yeah. But it's not just about technology, is it? It's about understanding the culture of the market, too.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, a few sources talk about how important those localized services are.
They're crucial.
What do you mean specifically? What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, language support is huge.
Okay.
A lot of the top platforms offer everything in Arabic,
Oh, right.
which makes them way more accessible.
Yeah. Like imagine trying to figure out a problem with your account
Yeah.
in a language you don't speak.
In another language, yeah, it'd be a nightmare.
Total nightmare. And then there's the payment options.
Right.
We've talked about staying anonymous, but it goes deeper than that.
It does.
What do you mean? Aren't anonymous payment options enough?
The perfect UAE betting site offers options that are not just private, but also popular in the region.
Right.
You know, if you have to go through all this trouble just to fund your account,
Yeah.
it's going to turn a lot of people away.
That's a really good point. So which payment options are both discreet and easy to use?
Well, we already mentioned e-wallets like Skrill and Neteller.
Right.
Those are popular everywhere.
Uh-huh.
But the sources also say that PaySafeCard's a big one in the Middle East.
Pay Safeguard, that prepaid voucher system.
Yeah, basically digital cash.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the cryptocurrency stuff.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Bitcoin is mentioned a lot,
Uh-huh.
is being accepted by more and more bookmakers.
It's the perfect combo of anonymity and global access.
Yeah,
So it's not surprising that it's becoming more popular.
makes sense. But it's important to remind everyone that crypto comes with risks,
Yeah, for sure.
especially because the prices can change so much.
Exactly.
But for people who want to stay anonymous, it's a good option.
Yeah, it is.
Because it really is an interesting system.
It is.
How technology, culture, and the law are all intertwined
Mm-hmm.
to make this unique online gambling world.
For sure. And one of the big things for me is that the demand in the UAE is definitely there.
Yeah.
People are willing to do whatever it takes to access these platforms.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the demand is so big
Yeah.
and everything's already set up,
Uh-huh.
could the UAE change its mind about online gambling? Could they start regulating it instead of banning it?
That's the big question. But before we get into that,
Okay.
let's think about what that would actually mean.
Okay, yeah.
What would legalization mean for the UAE
Mhm.
economically and socially?
Now that's where it gets really interesting.
It does.
What could that look like?
Let's say the UAE decides to go ahead and legalize and regulate online gambling.
Mhm.
What could that look like?
It's fun to think about. I'm picturing a whole new world of entertainment in the UAE.
Well, we can look at other places that have done something similar, like
Right.
the U.S., for example.
Yeah.
Lots of states there have gone from banning it to regulating it. In the
Mhm.
past few years, they've set up these systems for licensing online gambling companies.
So companies like 1xBet or 888 Sport would need to apply for a license to operate legally in the UAE.
Exactly. They'd have to meet certain standards
Right.
and follow regulations.
It's like a stamp of approval.
Yeah, exactly. Think about things like showing they're financially stable,
Okay.
implementing responsible gambling measures,
Uh-huh.
and sticking to strict data security rules.
So it's about making it profitable, but also protecting people.
Exactly. And of course, it opens the door to taxes.
Right. That's often a big reason why governments think about legalizing things, isn't it?
It is. Online gambling's a huge industry globally,
Yeah.
and the UAE is missing out on a lot of potential revenue right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Regulation would let them tap into that
Right.
and use the money for public services or other investments.
Yeah, it does seem like they're leaving money on the table by keeping it banned. But wouldn't people be worried about the social impact of making gambling more accessible?
There would be valid concerns, for sure.
Yeah.
Problem gambling is serious. Any move towards legalization would need strong measures to promote responsible gambling.
What kind of measures are we talking about?
Think about mandatory spending limits,
Okay.
programs where people can exclude themselves if they need a break,
Right.
and public awareness campaigns about the risks of gambling.
So it's a balancing act then. Managing the risks and exploring the economic benefits.
Exactly. It's also really important to think about the cultural context.
Right.
The UAE has these strong Islamic traditions,
Yeah.
and gambling is usually considered haram.
Right.
Any move towards legalization would have to consider these religious and cultural values.
Yeah. It's a reminder that it's not just about laws and money.
No,
It's about navigating deeply rooted beliefs.
it is.
It makes things even more complicated.
Absolutely. And even if online gambling were to be legalized, it doesn't automatically mean we'd see land-based casinos all over Dubai or Abu Dhabi.
That's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Yeah,
But even legalizing online gambling could change a lot about entertainment in the UAE.
it could. Think about what it could mean for tourism.
Oh?
Imagine the UAE becoming a hub for online gambling,
Right.
attracting tourists who are looking for that.
That's a whole new way to bring in tourists.
Right.
But for now, this is all just talk.
It is. It's important to say that any change in the UAE's stance is just speculation right now. There's been nothing official to say that they're actually thinking about it.
But we can't ignore what we're seeing.
No, we can't.
The demand's there.
It is.
Technology's changing so fast.
Yeah.
And globally, the trend's moving towards regulation instead of bans.
You're right. And with them setting up the General Commercial Gaming Regulatory Authority, GCGRA, back in 2024,
Right.
there's at least a framework in place
Yeah.
that could oversee this kind of transition if it were to happen.
It's definitely something to watch. It is. I'm curious to see how it all plays out.
I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive.
Okay.
We've talked about the legal stuff, the strategies people are using,
Right.
the popular sports and the top bookmakers,
Yeah.
online casinos, and even what the future of online gambling could look like in the UAE.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've explored this whole hidden world
Yeah.
that's operating right under the surface.
Right there.
I hope everyone listening has a better understanding of this complex and often overlooked part of the UAE.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this has sparked some new questions and ideas for people to think about.
I hope so.
Will the UAE become a big player in online gambling?
Yeah, who knows?
Only time will tell.
It does.
But it's definitely a story to keep an eye on.
For sure.
It is. And that brings us to the end of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening and joining us on this exploration.
It's been fun.